Our teacher ran into class screaming, "Where is my husband?" She had blood on her sleeve and couldn't stop shaking. Mrs. Novak burst through the door of AP English at 9:23 on a Wednesday morning, her white blouse soaked red from elbow to wrist. Her face was sheet white except for two bright spots of color high on her cheeks, and her hands were trembling so violently that when she tried to grip the doorframe for support, her fingers just slipped off. Her hair had come loose from its usual neat bun and hung in wild strands around her face. She looked at all of us sitting there with our copies of The Great Gatsby open on our desks and screamed it again, louder this time, her voice cracking on the last word. "Where is my husband? Has anyone seen David? Please, someone tell me where David is." The blood on her sleeve was still wet. I could see it dripping onto the floor, dark red drops landing on the beige linoleum and spreading. Mrs. Novak had taught at Riverside Academy for 8 years. She was known for being calm and composed, for never raising her voice even when students talked over her or turned in plagiarized essays. She wore cardigans and pearl earrings and graded papers with a fountain pen. She was the last person anyone expected to see covered in blood and screaming. My best friend Zara grabbed my arm under the desk, her nails digging into my skin hard enough to leave marks. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Is that real blood?" And I couldn't answer because I was staring at Mrs. Novak's face, at the way her eyes were moving frantically around the room, searching each of our faces with desperate hope. Behind her, Principal Osmond appeared in the doorway, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm when he saw the blood. "Caroline," he said, using Mrs. Novak's first name in a way I'd never heard before. "Caroline, you need to come with me right now. Let's go to my office and we can talk about this." Mrs. Novak spun around to face him, and that's when I saw the blood wasn't just on her sleeve. There was a smear of it across her collarbone, disappearing under the collar of her blouse. There were drops of it in her hair. "I can't find David," she said, her voice breaking. "He was supposed to be at his office this morning, but he never showed up. His secretary called me at 8:30 saying he missed an important meeting. I went to our house and there was blood in the kitchen, so much blood, and the back door was open and his car is still in the garage, but he's not there. Where is he? Where did he go?" Principal Osmond moved toward her slowly, his hands raised like he was approaching a frightened animal. "We need to call the police. Have you called the police?" Mrs. Novak laughed, a high-pitched sound that didn't match her face. "The police? The police won't help. They never help. You don't understand what's happening. I need to find David before they do." Before anyone could ask who they were, Mrs. Novak's legs gave out. She collapsed against the doorframe and slid down to a sitting position, still shaking, still scanning our faces. Principal Osmond spoke into his radio, calling for the school nurse and campus security. Within seconds, people were running down the hallway. Our class sat frozen, nobody moving or speaking, just watching this surreal scene unfold. Mrs. Novak looked directly at me then, and I don't know why she focused on me specifically, but her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Isla," she said, and hearing my name from her mouth in this context felt wrong. "You're smart. You notice things other people miss. I've seen you watching, thinking. Tell me the truth. Have you seen anything strange around school lately? Anyone who doesn't belong here? Anyone asking questions about faculty members?" I shook my head, unable to form words. What was I supposed to say? That I'd seen her husband David Novak exactly once, 3 weeks ago when he'd come to pick her up after parent-teacher conferences? That he'd seemed like a normal guy in his mid-30s with wire-rimmed glasses and a briefcase? Mrs. Novak's face crumpled with disappointment. The school nurse arrived, a competent woman named Diane Reed, who immediately knelt beside Mrs. Novak and started examining her for injuries. "Caroline, where are you hurt? Is this your blood?" Mrs. Novak shook her head violently. "It's David's. It's all David's. There was so much of it in the kitchen, on the floor, on the walls. Someone hurt him. Someone took him." Diane's expression became very serious. She looked up at Principal Osmond and mouthed something I couldn't make out. He nodded and spoke into his radio again. "We need police at Riverside Academy immediately. Faculty emergency." 2 campus security guards arrived and helped Diane get Mrs. Novak to her feet. She went with them but kept looking back at our classroom, her eyes still searching. When they'd disappeared down the hallway, Principal Osmond cleared his throat. "Class, I need all of you to remain here. An administrator will come to talk to you shortly. Please do not leave the room, and please do not post about this on social media. This is an active situation, and we need to respect Mrs. Novak's privacy." He left, closing the door behind him. The classroom exploded into conversation immediately. Everyone was talking at once, pulling out phones, texting. Zara turned to me, her face pale. "That was insane. Do you think her husband is actually missing, or do you think she's having some kind of breakdown?" I thought about the blood, about how much there had been. That blood looked real. And she said there was more at their house. Something happened. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was short and direct. She knows. They all know now. You need to be careful. I stared at the screen, my stomach dropping. I showed it to Zara and her eyes widened. Who sent that? What does that mean? Before I could respond, another text came through. David Novak found out about the program 3 days ago. He started asking questions. That's why they took him. If his wife keeps looking, she'll disappear too. If you're smart, you'll stay out of this. My hands started shaking the same way Mrs. Novak's had been shaking. I had no idea what program the text was referring to, or who they were, or why this person was texting me specifically. But the timing was too precise to be a coincidence. Someone was watching this unfold in real time. Zara grabbed my phone and read the messages, her breath quickening. Isla, this is seriously messed up. You need to show this to someone. Principal Osman or the police or someone. I took my phone back and was about to agree when the classroom door opened. But it wasn't an administrator. It was a man I'd never seen before, wearing a dark suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He had the kind of face that was hard to describe, average in every way, the type of person you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him. He smiled at all of us, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Good morning, students. My name is Agent Garrett from the Department of Education's Special Investigations Unit. I understand you all just witnessed a disturbing incident with Mrs. Novak. Nobody answered. The room had gone completely silent again. Agent Garrett set his briefcase on Mrs. Novak's desk and opened it, pulling out a clipboard with what looked like official forms. I need to ask each of you a few questions about what you saw and heard. This is standard protocol for situations involving faculty mental health crises. We want to make sure everyone is safe and that Mrs. Novak gets the help she needs. Something about his phrasing felt off. Faculty mental health crisis. He was already framing this as Mrs. Novak being unstable, not as her husband actually being missing. Zara raised her hand tentatively. Are the police coming? Mrs. Novak said her husband was missing and there was blood everywhere. Agent Garrett's smile tightened slightly. Local police have been notified, yes. But as this involves a faculty member of a federally funded institution, my office has jurisdiction. Now, I need to speak with each of you individually. Let's start with you. He pointed directly at me. My heart started pounding. I stood up slowly, feeling everyone's eyes on me. Agent Garrett gestured toward the door. Let's use the office next door for privacy. I glanced back at Zara, who looked terrified. I followed Agent Garrett into the empty classroom next door, and he closed the door firmly behind us. He didn't sit down or invite me to sit. Instead, he stood between me and the door, blocking the exit. Isla Brennan, is that correct? Junior, 17 years old, parents are Michael and Teresa Brennan. The fact that he already knew my full name and my parents' names without checking any paperwork made my skin crawl. Yes, I managed to say. Agent Garrett's false friendliness evaporated. His expression went cold and hard. Mrs. Novak spoke to you specifically in that classroom. She asked if you'd seen anything strange. What was she referring to? I shook my head. I don't know. I've never talked to her about anything except classwork. Agent Garrett took a step closer. You're lying. We've been monitoring communications, and we know Mrs. Novak sent you an email 2 nights ago. An email she deleted immediately after sending, but we recovered it. What did that email say? I genuinely had no idea what he was talking about. I never received any email from Mrs. Novak, I swear. Agent Garrett studied my face for a long moment, and I forced myself to maintain eye contact even though every instinct was screaming at me to run. Check your spam folder, check your deleted folder, check anywhere an email might end up that you wouldn't normally look, and when you find it, you bring it to me immediately. Do not read it. Do not show it to anyone else. Do you understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Agent Garrett handed me a business card with nothing on it except a phone number. You call this number the moment you find that email. And Isla, you seem like a smart girl. Smart enough to know that getting involved in things that don't concern you can be very dangerous. Your parents own a small accounting firm, don't they? Would be a shame if they were audited by the IRS. These things can drag on for years, destroy businesses, ruin families. He wasn't even being subtle about it. He was threatening me and my family directly. I took the card with trembling fingers. Can I go back to class now? Agent Garrett opened the door. Of course. And remember, not a word about our conversation to anyone. This is part of an ongoing federal investigation. I walked back into the AP English classroom on shaking legs. Everyone was watching me, trying to read my expression. I sat down next to Zara, and she immediately leaned over to whisper, "What did he say?" I couldn't answer because Agent Garrett had followed me back in and was now pointing at another student. You're next. He pulled students out one by one, spending about 5 minutes with each. Whatever he was doing, it wasn't interviewing us about Mrs. Novak's breakdown. He was interrogating us about something else entirely. By the time he'd spoken to everyone and left, It was almost 11 a.m. Principal Osmond's voice came over the PA system. Due to the incident this morning, we will be dismissing students early today. Please proceed to the parking lot in an orderly fashion. Parents have been notified. Zara and I gathered our things and joined the stream of students heading out. Everyone was talking about Mrs. Novak, sharing videos people had managed to take on their phones before administrators confiscated them. But I was thinking about the texts I'd received and Agent Garrett's threats. As soon as we got to the parking lot, I pulled out my phone and opened my email app. Started checking folders I never looked at. In my spam folder, dated 2 nights ago at 11:47 p.m., was an email from Caroline Novak's school address. The subject line was empty. My finger hovered over it. Agent Garrett had told me not to read it, to call him immediately if I found it. But every instinct I had was screaming that calling him would be a mistake. I opened the email. The message was short and appeared to be written in a rush. Isla, I know this is strange, but I don't know who else to contact. I can't go to the administration or police. David discovered something about Riverside Academy's funding structure, something that connects to a federal program that shouldn't exist. He started investigating, and now people are following him. If anything happens to him, you need to know that the student scholarship program isn't what it claims to be. Check the names of scholarship recipients from the past 5 years. Cross-reference them with the National Missing Persons Database. I've attached files that David compiled. Please, if something happens to us, make sure someone knows the truth. Be careful who you trust. There were 3 attachments. I downloaded them quickly before anyone could stop me. The first file was a spreadsheet listing every student who'd received the prestigious Riverside Merit Scholarship over the past 5 years. 63 names total. The second file was data pulled from the National Missing Persons Database. The third file was a comparison document that David Novak had created. My blood ran cold reading it. 41 of the 63 scholarship recipients had been reported missing within 6 months of graduation. 41 teenagers, all high-achieving students, all recipients of full-ride scholarships, just vanished. Some were listed as runaways. Some as suspected suicides with no bodies recovered. Some simply disappeared without explanation. The scholarship program was run by something called the Apex Educational Foundation, which David Novak had traced back to a shell corporation funded by Department of Defense black budget money. This wasn't a scholarship program. It was a recruitment pipeline. But recruitment for what? Zara grabbed my arm. Isla, you look like you're going to pass out. What did that email say? I showed her the phone, watched her face go from confused to horrified as she read through the files. Oh my God. 41 students? That's not possible. Someone would have noticed. Parents would have reported it. I scrolled to the notes section David Novak had added at the bottom of his analysis. Parents did report it, but the cases were never investigated properly. Local police departments were told federal authorities had jurisdiction due to the scholarship connection. Federal authorities claimed they found no evidence of foul play. Every case was closed or went cold. Zara looked around the parking lot at our classmates, at the teachers standing near the exits monitoring the early dismissal. Who at this school knows about this? Principal Osmond? The teachers? I thought about Mrs. Novak's desperate question. She'd asked if we'd seen anyone who didn't belong, anyone asking questions about faculty. She knew the school administration couldn't be trusted. I don't think most teachers know, but someone here is involved. Someone is helping identify and recruit these students. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. You opened the email. That was stupid. Now they know you have the files. Get out of the parking lot. Don't go home. They're already on their way to your house. My heart stopped. I grabbed Zara's wrist. We need to leave right now. Not in my car, they'll track it. Do you have your car? Zara nodded, her face sheet white. It's in the junior lot on the other side of campus. We started walking fast, not running because that would draw attention, but moving with purpose. Behind us, I heard the sound of vehicles pulling into the parking lot. I glanced back and saw 3 black SUVs with government plates. Men in suits were getting out, scanning the crowd of students. Agent Garrett was with them, pointing toward where I'd been standing moments ago. Run, I said to Zara. We ran, cut between buildings, through the cafeteria courtyard, around the gymnasium. My lungs were burning by the time we reached the junior parking lot. Zara fumbled with her keys, dropped them, picked them up with shaking hands. We threw ourselves into her beat-up sedan and she started the engine. The car sputtered twice before catching. Through the windshield, I saw 2 men in suits running toward us from the main building. Zara threw the car into reverse and backed out of the spot so fast we nearly hit another car. Then she was speeding toward the exit, blowing through the stop sign, and pulling out onto the main road. I twisted in my seat to look behind us. One of the SUVs was following. They're behind us, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere obvious. Zara's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Where am I supposed to go? Isla, what is happening? Why are federal agents chasing us? I was trying to think through the panic flooding my system. Mrs. Novak had said she couldn't go to the police, that they never help. If local police were compromised or had been told to defer to federal authorities, we couldn't go there. We needed someone outside the system, someone who would listen. My uncle, my mom's brother, Philip Reeves. He's an investigative journalist in Capital City. He covers government corruption. If anyone would know what to do with this information, it's him. Zara made a sharp turn onto the highway, accelerating to merge with traffic. The SUV followed, maintaining a steady distance of about 3 cars behind us. They weren't trying to catch us immediately. They were following us to see where we'd go, who we'd contact. I pulled out my phone and called my uncle's number. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Uncle Philip, it's Isla. I'm in serious trouble. I have information about a federal program that's targeting high school students. People are chasing me right now. I'm coming to your office in Capital City. Please, I need your help. I hung up and tried to think of what else I could do. Going to my uncle's office would lead federal agents right to him, but I didn't see another option. Unless the anonymous person texting me had a better idea. I pulled up the text thread and typed quickly. Who are you? What do you want me to do with this information? The response came within seconds. Someone who got out before they could use me. You need to upload those files to somewhere public where they can't be deleted. A journalist's platform, multiple news sites, social media. Make it so visible that they can't cover it up, but you have to do it before they catch you. I looked at the SUV still trailing us in traffic. They're following us. We can't stop anywhere to upload files or they'll grab us. Another text. I can help with that. Keep driving toward Capital City. When you cross the river bridge, slow down near the construction zone. I'll create a distraction. I had no idea if I could trust this person, but I didn't have better options. I told Zara the plan and she nodded tightly, her eyes fixed on the road. The drive to Capital City normally took 45 minutes. Zara made it in 30, pushing her old car as fast as it would go. The SUV kept pace, never falling back, never trying to overtake us. They were confident they could grab us whenever they wanted. When we approached the river bridge, I saw the construction zone ahead, orange barrels narrowing 2 lanes into one, workers in hard hats and neon vests. Slow down, I told Zara. Not too much, just enough that it looks natural. She eased off the gas and we merged into the single lane. The SUV closed the distance, now just 2 cars behind us. I could see Agent Garrett in the passenger seat speaking into a phone. Then 3 things happened simultaneously. A construction crane swung its load across the road, forcing all traffic to stop. A truck jackknifed sideways, blocking the lane completely. And a figure on a motorcycle appeared beside our car, gesturing frantically for us to follow. The motorcyclist was wearing a full helmet and dark clothes. They pointed toward an access road that branched off before the bridge, a route marked for construction vehicles only. Zara didn't hesitate. She wrenched the wheel and took the turn. Behind us, Agent Garrett was out of the SUV and running toward our car, but the blocked traffic and construction equipment created a barrier he couldn't cross quickly. The motorcyclist led us down the access road, which turned into a dirt path following the river. After about 2 minutes of rough terrain that made Zara's car rattle and groan, we emerged onto a side street in an industrial area. The motorcyclist pulled over and waited for us. I rolled down my window. The motorcyclist removed their helmet, revealing a young woman in her early 20s with short dark hair and intense eyes. I'm Maya Foster, she said. I was a Riverside Merit Scholar 4 years ago. I was supposed to disappear after graduation, but I figured out what was happening and ran. I've been hiding ever since, trying to gather evidence. My mind was racing. You're the one who sent me the texts. Maya nodded. Mrs. Novak's husband contacted me 6 days ago. He'd found old articles I'd written under pseudonyms about the scholarship program and tracked me down. We were supposed to meet yesterday to combine our evidence, but he never showed up. When I saw what happened at your school this morning, I knew they'd gotten to him. I showed her my phone, pulled up the files Mrs. Novak had sent. She emailed me these before she came to school. Her husband compiled a list of missing scholarship recipients. Maya's expression went hard. 41 missing. That's more than I'd confirmed. David was thorough. She pulled out her own phone and started typing rapidly. We need to upload everything right now before they track us down. I have contacts at 6 different news organizations and 3 data transparency platforms. If we flood all of them simultaneously, they can't suppress it all. Zara had gotten out of the car and was pacing, her hands shaking. Can someone please explain what this scholarship program actually is? Why are they taking students? What happens to them? Maya looked at her with something like pity. The Apex Educational Foundation identifies exceptional students, usually ones with high intelligence, strong academic performance, but limited family resources or connections. Students who won't be missed much if they disappear. They offer full scholarships, full support through college, then recruit them into classified government programs after graduation. Programs that officially don't exist. intelligence operations, experimental research, things the public would never approve if they knew. I felt sick. But why the disappearances? Why not just recruit them openly after college? Maya's voice was bitter. Because most students would refuse if they knew what they were signing up for. The disappearances are staged to cover the recruitment. Fake runaways, fake suicides, fake accidents. It gives the government deniable assets, people with no official connection to any agency, no paper trail. And for students who try to refuse or back out, like the ones who realize too late what they've gotten into, the disappearances become real. Zara made a choking sound. They kill them? They kill kids who won't cooperate? Maya's silence was answer enough. I thought about Mrs. Novak's desperate face, the blood on her sleeve. What happened to David Novak? Is he already dead? Maya shook her head. I don't know. They might be interrogating him to find out what he shared and with whom. They might be trying to force him to recant his findings. But we don't have much time. The longer we wait, the more likely they'll kill him and bury this whole thing. She held out her hand. I need your phone. I'll upload everything to my secure network and distribute it to journalists simultaneously. Once it's out there, public and undeniable, they'll have to back off. Killing us or disappearing us at that point would only confirm the story. I handed over my phone, hoping desperately that I was making the right choice. Maya worked quickly, her fingers flying over the screen. Uploading to encrypted servers first, then pushing to news sites. This will take about 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes felt like hours. We stood in the empty industrial parking lot, 3 young women with information powerful enough to destroy careers and expose illegal operations, waiting for the upload to complete. Zara kept watching the road for approaching vehicles. I kept checking Maya's face for any sign of what she was thinking. When Maya's phone started buzzing with incoming notifications, she smiled grimly. It's done. 5 major news organizations just received complete files with evidence of 41 missing scholarship recipients, federal funding trails, and documentation of the Apex Educational Foundation's connections to Department of Defense black programs. It's going to explode. My phone started buzzing too. Calls from numbers I didn't recognize, text messages pouring in. The story was already spreading. Maya handed my phone back. Now we need to get you somewhere safe until the news cycle catches up. My car is 2 blocks from here. Follow me. We drove behind Maya's motorcycle to a small apartment in the warehouse district of Capital City. The building was old and anonymous, the kind of place no one would think to look. Maya's apartment was sparse, just a mattress on the floor, a desk with 3 computer monitors, and walls covered in printed documents and photographs. All of it related to the Apex Educational Foundation and missing students. You can stay here tonight, Maya said. By tomorrow morning, every major outlet will be running the story. Federal authorities will have to respond. They can't disappear all of us once it's this public. Zara and I sat on the mattress while Maya made coffee on a hot plate. None of us had eaten lunch and it was now almost 3 p.m., but food seemed impossible to think about. My phone rang, my mother's number. I answered and immediately heard her panicked voice. Isla, where are you? Federal agents came to our house an hour ago saying you were involved in some kind of security breach at school. They've been through your room, they took your laptop and all your school materials. They said you're in danger and we need to bring you in immediately to somewhere safe. Where are you? I closed my eyes trying to keep my voice steady. Mom, I'm okay. I'm safe. The federal agents are lying to you. They're trying to find me because I have evidence of illegal government operations. Please don't tell them anything about where I might be. My mother's voice rose. What are you talking about? Illegal operations? Isla, you're 17 years old. You're a high school student. You don't have evidence of anything. These men are law enforcement and they're trying to help you. I realized she didn't believe me, or couldn't believe me. The idea that federal agents would lie was too far outside her worldview. Mom, I'll explain everything later. Just please, trust me. Don't help them find me. I hung up before she could argue further. Maya was watching me with understanding. They'll pressure your parents hard, might threaten them with obstruction charges, or claim you've been kidnapped and their accessories. Can your parents hold out? I thought about my father, who'd spent 30 years building his accounting business by following every rule and trusting authority. I thought about my mother, who volunteered at the library and believed the system worked. No, I said honestly. They'll cooperate because they think it's the right thing to do. Maya nodded. Then we need to accelerate the timeline. Get you in front of cameras, make you visible, give you credibility before authorities can frame you as a troubled teen or a liar. She started making phone calls. Within an hour, she'd arranged for me to give an interview to a national news network via video call. The journalist, a woman named Catherine Walsh, no, wrong name, a woman named Rebecca Torres, had already seen the files and wanted to hear the story directly from me. At 6 p.m., I sat in front of Maya's laptop with a hastily combed hair and a borrowed sweater, staring at Rebecca Torres's face on the screen. She was in her 40s, professional and sharp-eyed, with a reputation for breaking major investigative stories. Isla, thank you for speaking with me. I know this is an incredibly difficult situation. Let's start at the beginning. How did you first learn about the Apex Educational Foundation and the missing scholarship recipients? I took a deep breath and told her everything. Mrs. Novak bursting into class covered in blood. The email her husband had sent me. The files documenting 41 missing students. Agent Garrett's threats. The chase from school. Rebecca listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she asked, "Do you have proof of what you're saying? The files, the emails, any documentation?" Maya appeared on camera beside me and held up a USB drive. "I have copies of everything. Student names, dates, federal funding trails, connections to classified programs. All of it verified and cross-referenced." Rebecca's expression was intense. "This story is going to air in 90 minutes on the national evening news. I'm going to need you both to stay available for follow-up questions. And Isla, I need you to understand that once this airs, your life changes permanently. You'll be the face of this investigation. There will be people who call you a hero and people who call you a liar. Federal authorities will come after you hard. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Mrs. Novak's desperate face asking if anyone had seen her husband. I thought about 41 students who'd disappeared and been erased. I thought about David Novak bleeding somewhere, or already dead. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." The interview aired at 7:30 p.m. Maya, Zara, and I watched it on the laptop, seeing my face broadcast nationally as I explained the entire conspiracy. Rebecca Torres had done her homework. She presented the documentation, showed the list of missing students, displayed the funding connections. She'd even gotten statements from 3 families of missing scholarship recipients, parents who'd been told their children had run away or killed themselves but had never believed it. By 8 p.m., the story was trending on every social media platform. By 9 p.m., the Department of Education had issued a statement denying any knowledge of the Apex Educational Foundation and promising a full investigation. By 10 p.m., my Uncle Philip finally called me back. "Isla, I just saw you on national news. What the hell is happening? Are you safe?" I explained everything again, and he listened with the focused attention of a journalist recognizing a massive story. "Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you right now. And I'm bringing a camera crew because we're doing a full documentary on this. Every detail, every source, everything. This is the kind of story that brings down administrations." He arrived at Maya's apartment at 11:30 p.m. with 2 colleagues and professional video equipment. For the next 3 hours, they interviewed all 3 of us, recording every piece of evidence, every document, every detail we could remember. At 2 a.m., exhausted and running on nothing but adrenaline, I finally asked the question that had been haunting me. "What about David Novak? What about Mrs. Novak? Are they okay?" My uncle pulled out his phone and showed me a news alert that had come through 20 minutes ago. "Caroline Novak was found unconscious in her home 3 hours ago. She's in the hospital now, stable but sedated. Police are calling it a mental breakdown brought on by stress." I felt cold. "That's a lie. They did something to her. They're silencing her." My uncle nodded grimly. "Probably. But here's the thing. They can't silence all of you. The story's too big now. 6 senators have already called for congressional hearings. The FBI has announced they're opening an investigation separate from the Department of Education. And there are rumors that other students, scholarship recipients who successfully disappeared, are coming forward now that they know it's safe." The next morning, I woke up on Maya's floor with Zara beside me and sunlight streaming through the windows. My phone had 847 notifications. My uncle was already working, editing footage and making calls to sources. On the news, anchors were discussing nothing but the Apex Educational Foundation scandal. By noon, 12 more former scholarship recipients had come forward publicly, confirming they'd been recruited into classified programs under duress. By 3 p.m., the Secretary of Education had resigned. By 6 p.m., congressional hearings had been scheduled. My parents finally reached me on Maya's phone, both of them crying, apologizing for not believing me, begging me to come home. I told them I would, but not yet. Not until I knew it was safe. On the 3rd day after the story broke, David Novak was found. Hikers discovered him in a state park 40 miles from Riverside, badly beaten, but alive. He'd been interrogated and dumped, left for dead, but managing to survive through sheer determination. The men who'd taken him were arrested within hours, and they started talking immediately, giving up names and details about the program in exchange for reduced sentences. Mrs. Novak woke up in the hospital and gave her own interview from her bed, confirming everything her husband had discovered and everything I'd reported. The investigation expanded rapidly. Over the next 3 months, federal prosecutors built cases against 23 government officials and contractors involved in the Apex Educational Foundation. The program had been running for 12 years, had recruited over 200 students, and had resulted in at least 41 confirmed deaths of students who'd tried to refuse or escape. Riverside Academy's principal, Gerald Osman, was arrested for his role in identifying and recommending students for the scholarship program. 3 other teachers were implicated as well, people who'd fed information about promising students to Apex recruiters. The school was placed under state oversight and essentially gutted its entire administration. Agent Garrett, whose real name turned out to be Thomas Vickers, disappeared before he could be arrested. There was a warrant out for him, but he'd likely fled the country or been disappeared by his own handlers to keep him from testifying. I testified before Congress twice, sitting at a table with Maya and David Novak, explaining how the program worked and what we'd uncovered. Senators asked pointed questions about oversight and accountability. Some were genuinely outraged. Others seemed more concerned about political damage control. The hearings were broadcast live and watched by millions. Zara's family moved to another state, unable to handle the media attention and death threats that came from exposing a covert government operation. We stayed in touch by phone, but I missed having her physically there. My own family struggled too. My father lost several clients who didn't want to be associated with someone who'd embarrassed the federal government. My mother couldn't go grocery shopping without being recognized and either praised or condemned depending on who saw her. But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. 6 months after the story broke, I visited Mrs. Novak at her new apartment in Capital City. She'd left Riverside and was writing a book about everything that had happened. David was there too, recovered physically, but still dealing with trauma from his interrogation. They both hugged me when I arrived, holding on tight. "You saved our lives," Mrs. Novak said. "If you hadn't opened that email, if you hadn't found those files and gotten them public, David and I would both be dead. They would have killed us and buried the whole thing." I showed them my phone, the secure folder where I still kept all the original documents. These 41 students, the ones who didn't make it out, their families deserve to know the truth about what happened. David nodded, his eyes hard. "That's why we're testifying at every trial. Every single person involved in this program needs to face justice for what they did." The trial stretched on for over a year. Some defendants pleaded guilty. Others fought until overwhelming evidence buried them. Families of the missing students filed civil suits. Congressional legislation was passed requiring oversight of all educational scholarship programs with federal funding. It wasn't enough. It could never be enough to make up for what had been done. But it was something. Maya got her life back, slowly. The government dropped all charges they'd threatened her with, and she started speaking publicly about her experience as a survivor. She became an advocate for government transparency and protection of whistleblowers. My uncle's documentary won awards and sparked additional investigations into other covert recruitment programs. I testified at 9 different trials over 18 months, each time sitting across from defendants who'd facilitated kidnapping and murder under the cover of a scholarship program. I graduated from Riverside Academy, though it felt surreal walking across the stage knowing half the faculty had been replaced, and the principal was awaiting trial. Several colleges offered me full scholarships, legitimate ones this time, with administrators falling over themselves to prove their programs were transparent and ethical. I accepted admission to Capital University, where I planned to study journalism and law. I wanted to spend my life exposing corruption and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. On the 2-year anniversary of the day Mrs. Novak ran into class covered in blood, I met her and David for coffee in Capital City. They looked healthier now, less haunted, though neither would ever fully recover from what they'd experienced. "How many of the 41 have been accounted for now?" I asked. David pulled out his ever-present notebook. 33 confirmed deaths. 8 still unaccounted for, but we're following leads on 3 of them. We think they might have escaped and are hiding, afraid to come forward even now. Mrs. Novak added, "The families of the confirmed dead are getting some closure at least. Proper burials, answers about what happened. It doesn't fix anything, but it's something." I thought about all those students, bright and talented, who'd trusted a scholarship program that promised opportunities, but delivered exploitation and death. I thought about how close I'd come to being one of them if I'd been just a little younger, a little more vulnerable, a little more desperate for a way out of my circumstances. "We stopped them," I said. "The program's shut down, people are in prison, reforms are in place. We actually stopped them." David met my eyes, and his expression was complicated, satisfaction mixed with sorrow. "We stopped this one. But there are others. There are always others. Programs with different names, different covers, same predatory intent. That's why people like you need to keep watching, keep asking questions, keep refusing to look away when something feels wrong." Mrs. Novak reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You were 17 years old, and you took on the federal government because it was the right thing to do. That kind of courage is rare. Don't lose it." I promised I wouldn't. 3 years later, I broke another story about military recruitment tactics targeting vulnerable teenagers. 5 years later, I exposed a foster care system being used as a pipeline for labor trafficking. 8 years later, I won a Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism. And every single time I published a story, every time I helped expose corruption or helped bring justice to victims, I thought about Mrs. Novak running into class covered in blood, desperate and terrified, asking if anyone had seen her husband. I thought about the 41 students who'd disappeared. I thought about how easily I could have ignored the email, deleted the texts, stayed silent and safe. I thought about how the hardest thing I'd ever done was opening that email and deciding to care about something bigger than my own safety. That was the moment that changed everything. The moment I chose to see instead of looking away, to speak instead of staying silent. Some people called me brave, others called me reckless. But I knew the truth. I wasn't special or extraordinary. I was just a 17-year-old girl who'd been given information she couldn't ignore and a choice she couldn't walk away from. And I chose justice over safety, truth over comfort, action over silence. I chose to be someone who wouldn't let 41 dead students be forgotten. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.